CT Sports Talent Show. My name is Chris Saunders, and I have for the top performance of the week for girls basketball, Bella Kakuta is with me from Newington. Bella, I appreciate you coming on, and congratulations on being the top performance of the week for girls basketball.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Being able to talk to your coach, and he was telling me how, as far as the last week, you've averaged 24 points per game. You potentially are going to be at 1,000, hopefully within this week, right? And hopefully you'll be at home, but that would be a whole nother thing. But as far as kind of looking at the season and what you've been able to do so far, kind of give me your reflection if you can.
Um, my reflection, I'll say it's been like a great season. We've been successful, me personally, and us as a team.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like we've done great this season so far. We've had a couple of tough games, but we've been able to learn from those games and be more successful. I feel like we have a great chance at making it far this season.
And you and I were just talking about a couple years ago, removed from being at Mohegan Sun, right? And you lost to a very good, I think it was Notre Dame Fairfield. Am I right?
Yeah.
Was that okay? So, but you guys have had a taste for the players that came back, right? You've had a taste of what it is to be at Mohegan. Lily Ferguson was a dynamic player. You had the opportunity to be able to learn from her one-on-ones, just be her teammate, right? And now it being a couple years removed and seeing what you've done this year. And again, I know Lily, the standard's so high for what she did, but do you feel like her and the other seniors that year kind of helped mold what you've been able to do as far as this year and just overall?
Yes, for sure. Like my coach talks about culture for our team a lot, and I feel like they were able to set that culture in me and the other juniors on my team around me. Like we've learned from them
Mhm.
and we've been able to build off of them and create kind of like our own culture for
Mhm.
our team. But they really like set the groundwork for us and we've just built off of what we learned from them.
What were some of the things that you picked up on from those seniors from that Mohegan Sun run? What did you learn that year about yourself and just your game?
I feel like from that year, from those seniors, I learned leadership
Mhm.
and I saw how they were able to step up and kind of like lead our team on that big run to Mohegan. And from learning that kind of motivated me. I wanted to kind of have that same leadership that they showed and be able to lead my team, which I feel like I am doing this year.
I mean, for you to only be a junior and to be 24 points away from 1,000, I mean, to my recollection, not many juniors do that. So has that kind of crossed your mind about the potential of basically what I'm saying is your ceiling could be as high as what you want it to be. Like, do you realize that?
Yeah, I feel like I just kind of like scratched the surface of my full potential.
Mhm.
And it just feels great to be able to be a junior and accomplishing this goal so soon. It just shows me that like all the hard work I've put in is finally paying off and to just keep working hard at what I want to achieve.
And it makes perfect sense because when you combine the close to 1,000 with what you just told me, some of the players that you've looked up to, the Jordans, I see Steph Curry. I'm assuming you like him because you have his jersey. You
Mhm.
mentioned Kobe, and then watching some of your tape, I can see a lot of those players kind of in your game, and I'm assuming you've picked up some of their I don't want to say skills, but some of their tools, right, to utilize in your game. What says you?
Yeah, I mean, I watch a lot of basketball like on my free time.
Mhm.
Stephen Curry is my favorite player. He has been since I was like really little,
Mhm.
and just watching all that basketball, it teaches me a lot. And I've always wanted to kind of be like Stephen Curry. And some people like now being a junior, like they tell me they can kind of like see him in me when I'm on the court, which is like it's kind of like a full circle moment for me. It's like really cool to hear.
So you can make a shot from the logo at Newington. Is that right?
Yeah.
Have you attempted that, or does Mark be like, no, don't do that. Don't do that consistently.
I mean, I've been not from the logo, but I shoot from like pretty far out, and
Hmm.
I mean, my coach, he doesn't say anything. He lets me have kind of like free range from
Yeah.
where I want to shoot from, which
Is
is
there
nice.
is there ever a moment where he's like, no, 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 and then it goes in, he's like, oh yeah, 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 okay, good.
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of those moments.
I could, but hey, you know what? As long as you make them, you can't say
Hmm.
anything, right? They count
Yeah.
just as much. It's good. It's a three. And
Hmm.
speaking of that too, do you watch college basketball as well on the women's basketball side?
Yes.
So I'm assuming Caitlin Clark has to be somebody you like too. Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
What's your take on her? Because I spoke to a young lady from East Catholic yesterday about her, and we had a good conversation. Like, what's your take on her? I'd love to hear that.
She's just like when I watch her, it's like I've never seen like a girl play like that
Mhm.
in college basketball. She like reminds me a lot of Stephen Curry, which a lot of people say. It's like crazy to watch her game. Like she's really like a dog.
Do you think, like, because let's be honest, Steph Curry really kind of evolved the way the game is viewed upon on the men's side, right? I mean, the 3-point shot, obviously, all the other crazy stuff that he does has made now a bunch of kids want to be just like him. Obviously, you're one of them, but you're on the different, side, on the gender side, on the women's side. But do you feel like Caitlin Clark is kind of that Steph Curry player in a way, where she could now maybe take that step on the women's side? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think, yeah, definitely. She's like the Stephen Curry for women's basketball. I think a lot of people look up to her, me being one of those people.
Mhm.
And it's just really cool to see.
Now, I asked the young lady from East Catholic yesterday, I'll ask you this as well. If you were to guard Caitlin Clark, how would you do that? I'd love to hear that.
Mm.
It's
That
tough.
would be, yeah, that's tough to guard her. I feel like you would have to like play her from like half court because she like pulls up
Mhm.
from like the logo like every single time. But she also got like an all around game where she could just blow
Mhm.
by you, go to the basket. But I
Tough.
would definitely pick her up from full court.
That's smart. And who knows, maybe you may win a couple of those. You never know.
Yeah.
But let's look at Newington as far as the season. You guys are 6-2. You know, seems like ever since I've started really following the girls basketball side, you guys have always been amongst the top in the game time poll, if not in the top 10, just outside it, and then you guys find a way to get back in. CCC is such a great, I just spoke to a young man from Lewis Mills, Connor Evans, who's having a great season. And we were just talking about how deep the CCC is with talent. Girls basketball is no different, right? The Windsors, we talk about Enfield, Newington, I could go on and on and on. How is it playing in such a deep conference like that?
Um, it's definitely challenging. Like some games, like good players, good teams.
Hmm.
It's definitely a challenge, but obviously a challenge is like good sometimes. It makes you better. Playing against like certain teams like Windsor, Iona Franks, a couple of other teams I can name, like um it's definitely tough, but we get the job done most of the time. And if we don't, it's just something we learn from.
What was the biggest thing for you last year that you wanted to work on, focus on, mental, physical, your game, whatever, and that you've made sure that it was improved on before this season? Can you think of anything?
I would say my mental toughness, leadership, and being able to score from like all three levels of the floor. And I've definitely worked on all three of those during the off season, and I'm definitely better at all three of those this year. For scoring on all three levels last year, I was more of just like an outside shooter. If I would get pressured, then I would not really be able to do much.
Mm.
Um, and in the off season, I like worked out a lot, trained a lot, weightlifted, and this year, I feel like I'm definitely stronger, being able to take it to the basket, score on all three levels. My leadership, I feel like I'm definitely stepped up in that aspect of my game, and I'm and in tough situations, like in a game, I feel like I am that person for my team, being able to step up and lead. Yeah.
When you mention the three levels for people who may not know or may not be as familiar with basketball, what do you mean by that?
For three levels, like first level is like being able to take it to the basket, like layups.
Mhm.
Second level is being able to like create my own shot mid range, and then third level is just outside, like 3 point.
I feel like with the players that you idolize, if the 3 point is a shot that you're not making consistently, I feel like you'd be making sure that you were just because of obviously Curry and others, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Bill, I really appreciate you coming on. This has been a lot of fun, good conversation. Obviously, we're in, I've always, I've said this for years. There's 3 seasons in basketball: before the holiday, after the holidays, and the postseason. Right now, we're getting to that second season. I like to call it, where it's going to be a sprint. Right before you know it, we blink and we've got tournament time for the conferences, and then state tournaments a week after that. Right, so as now that is starting to become a thing, and with the games now starting back up, especially after this wicked snowstorm we had. What are some things that you're looking at big picture wise in the second season?
I'll say this season is definitely like the toughest, and for my team, we're obviously just looking to like be able to make it as far into the season as we can.
Mhm.
State championship is obviously one of our goals, and to make it there, we've just been talking about like we have to stay consistent always and just work hard to stay locked in, especially after like all of the holidays and stuff, and
Mhm.
going into postseason is definitely going to be like tough, but I'm very confident in my team.
Do you guys pay attention to the polls or any of the conversations that happen, like who are the top teams, who's this, who's that? Do you guys pay attention to that or no?
Yeah, we hear about it, we see about it, but
Mhm.
it doesn't really affect us, I would say. Like we just played number one team in the state, Hamden, and they were number one, but we beat them. Like that doesn't really affect us and phase us just because they're number one team. Like we are still confident that we can go into any game this season. We deserve to be playing the top teams and that we can win those games, those tough games.
Do you think that win against Hamden, I'm glad you mentioned that. Do you think that win, not to say that you guys weren't confident, but do you think that win kind of helps potentially jumpstart something for this team? Because I feel like a championship team, for example, could point like after this game or after this tough stretch and we made it through it. That's when we kind of felt like, okay, now we're going to make a run. And I know it's too early because you don't want to peak too early. And then, when you get to the postseason time, then things are like, the ball's not going in the basket, right? You want to peak at the right time. But getting key victories like that are huge. Do you think that Hamden win is one of those for a state championship team down the road? What do you think?
I think definitely it was like one of those wins that like showed us that we can beat any team. And that was really like a big game for us, a turning point, because that was the team we lost against last year, semifinals. And going into that game, we just had like a lot of, we were motivated because we didn't want to have that same feeling we did last year, semifinals. Um, and yeah, it was definitely a big win for us. I think we've had one of the toughest schedules in the CCC. Like from the start of the season to now, we've played top teams, Sacred Heart, Hamden, and I think we've done a great job of some of the games we did lost, like Sacred Heart, we lost in double overtime.
Mm.
I think that was a big game too. Even though we lost, it did show us like we can really compete with any team.
Now, again, for people who may not know, what class are you guys in this year?
We're in double L.
Double L. So not only are you in a tough conference, you also are in a tough class. So it's
Yeah.
like you get out of the conference of where your eye is black, you got a black eye, your nose is bloody, and now you're going into a conference where it's like whoever makes it out, to that championship game or however far may have lost an arm and a leg, and a part of their head. Like it's tough, right? So
Yeah.
do you think being able to go through the gauntlet and the tough teams, like even though you may lose, like you may not have that perfect record that so many people like, but having a couple losses is not a bad thing, especially being in all, against those tough teams, right?
Yes. I think the losses are not really losses for us. They're just lessons. Like we learn from those losses what we can do better, and then we just practice whatever we need to work on, fix. And losses just show us like whatever we have to fix. And yeah.
I like that. The losses are not truly losses, they're lessons.
Yes.
If only more people could take that mindset and get away from the perfect records and look at tough games. I feel like some, and this goes for the entire country. People kind of, have a tendency to not go for the tough games. They just want to get that perfect record, right? But then when they get to the playoffs and they lose in the first round or they lose quick, they wonder how that happened. And then you look at the competition, right?
Mhm.
So, but I like that. Losses are not losses, they're lessons. That's a very good point out of you. Bella, I appreciate you coming out. A lot of fun, great conversation. Best of luck in the second season, and I'm sure I'll be seeing your guys' name deep, hopefully, in the tournament as far as Class Double L. And hopefully I could see you guys if I'm back in Mohegan. Hopefully you guys will have an opportunity to be able to get back there and maybe, get rid of some of those demons from just a couple years ago. You know what I mean?
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate it. It was good to talk to you.
Always. I wrap things up here in the CT Sports Talent Show. So next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm Jerry. Find them all. Do this shit, everybody, and be well.